Hello guys, welcome to this session, and in this session I'll be showing you how to set up the Plutus application. Now the Plutus application provides you with the development environment that you need for you to write and run Cardano smart contracts. Now I already provided you with a step-by-step guide that you can use to install Plutus, and that's what I'm going to follow in this session. So I'm going to open up my guide. Here it is. So setting up Plutus, and this gives you the step-by-step procedure of doing all this. So I'm currently using a Windows machine, and so as you all know, Plutus isn't supported on Windows, and so what we need to do is to install WSL. So WSL is a subsystem for Linux, and so this enables us to run a Linux-based operating system on Windows. So it's more like a virtual machine. Now, the two steps here, that is installing WSL and installing Ubuntu. So these steps are readily available on other tutorials. So I'm going to go straight to running Ubuntu. So I'll open up the search window, and I will search for Ubuntu. So this is after I've installed Ubuntu from the Microsoft Store. So click on that. Then this will install Ubuntu. So this is the initial setup that happens when you launch Ubuntu on WSL. I'm going to give it a few minutes, then it's going to be done. So it will ask me to provide a username for my account and also a password. There we have it. So we are going to provide the username. So I'm going to use my username as Ernest. Then I'm also going to provide a password. So you can write your own password if you like. Then you can also leave it blank if you don't want to have a password for your account. So my password is successfully updated. Now I have Ubuntu ready. So I have the terminal. So from this terminal is where now I'm going to control everything about this operating system. So this is a command line interface for Ubuntu operating system. Now, as usual, with all new operating system installation, I'm going to start by updating the operating system. So first, I'm going to use the command sudo apt get update. So this will enable me to get the different updates that or the different packages that need to be updated. So I'm going to put my password there to authenticate this. Then now this gets the different packages that need to be updated, and this should take a few seconds then to be done. After that, we're going to upgrade these packages. So we're going to go into the second command. So we're going to use sudo apt upgrade. So we can just copy this as we wait. So it's done. So now we paste the next command, which is now to upgrade these packages. So sudo apt get upgrade. That is the work of that command. So press enter, and this will ask you for authentication essentially. So you just press Y to authenticate this process and press enter. Then we give it some time. So it's going to take about 2 minutes for it to get done. So as the updates continues installing, we are going to go into the next step of installing Visual Studio Code. So I've already installed my Visual Studio Code. What comes next is to install some extensions. So one of the extensions that we're going to install is the remote development environment. So just open up Visual Studio Code. Then we're going to use the list provided here, the list of extensions provided here to install. So I'm going to open my Visual Studio Code, and I'm going to start by installing the remote development. So I'm going to go to the extensions icon down here, click on that. Then I'm going to search for remote development. Then I'm going to click on that. So I'm going to start with the remote SSH. So I'll install that. Then again, we have all the options here. So we have remote, where is it? Remote development. So I'm going to install that too. Then we also have the remote WSL, that is the WSL extension. We have it here. So that's already installed. So this seems like it comes packaged with these other remote development extensions. Now, after that, this is what you need. And after that, now we're going to install one more extension, which is the Haskell extension. So this is going to assist us in working with Haskell code. So we're going to install this first extension here, the Haskell language support. So it comes bundled up with the second extension, which is the Haskell syntax support. Now install that. So this takes just a few minutes, then it gets done. So now the extensions that we have installed on VS Code are going to assist us to work with WSL on VS Code. So instead of having to launch a separate window for Ubuntu, we can work with the operating system at one place, that is the Visual Studio Code. So here in Visual Studio Code, we are going to write our code, and also we are going to run different applications from the terminal provided by VS Code. So the terminal is connected to the WSL. So the terminal is connected to Ubuntu that runs in. So the terminal is connected to Ubuntu, which runs on WSL2. Now, to launch the terminal in Ubuntu, or to launch VS Code on Ubuntu, what you do, you just click down here. We have this green button here. Click on it. So it will open up a command palette. Now, there are different ways of launching this palette. So you can either use Control-Shift-P as indicated on the guide, or you can just click this green button here. So this enables you to open up a remote window. So we are opening up VS Code on Ubuntu that is installed in WSL2. So now here we are going to click, I'm going to use the second option, which allows me to choose the distro that you want to use. So new WSL window using distro. So here, this gives you an option to choose the operating system that you want to operate in. So I'm going to use Ubuntu 20.04. So I click on that. Then now you see I get another window that now down here on that green button, it says WSL Ubuntu 20.04. Now this means that now we're working in Ubuntu. Now I can close this other window, and there it is. Then now after this, we can go to terminal, new terminal, and now the terminal that you get here, as you can see, is similar to the terminal that we have on Ubuntu running on the WSL. So this and this are similar. So now we have access of this operating system on Visual Studio Code. So that's what we wanted to have. Now the update is done, so I'm going to close this window because right now I don't need it, because now I have everything I need on Visual Studio Code. So from now, I'm going to use the Visual Studio Code. So I'm going to close this. Then to make it even better, I'm going to restart VS Code, so that now just after the update, I'm going to restart everything, so that now to make sure that everything works fine. So I'm going to launch VS Code, and now you notice that when I launch, it automatically connects to the remote system Ubuntu running, that is the WSL running on Ubuntu. Now I have my terminal there. I have everything set. Now the next step is to install Nix. Nix is a package manager that enables us to easily set up the Haskell development environment for Cardano smart contracts. So we're going to copy the command right here. So copy that command and paste it in the terminal. Then press enter to execute. So this command will ask you for authentication. So you have to provide a password for you to proceed. So give it a few minutes for it to get done. So the installation is done, and now we have Nix installed in our OS. Now, even before we go into the next step, we need to first set up a Nix profile for our user. So we're going to copy this other command here, and that does set for us the user profile for Nix. So here where we have your user, we are going to modify this and change this to the user, to the current user. So the current user, in my case, the current user is Ernest, and then I'm going to press enter for this to run. Now after this is done, I'm going to restart the machine. So I'm going to start WSL. So I'm going to close this, then I'm going to launch Visual Studio Code again. So this is like restarting the machine. So in for people who are using Linux operating system, so you just have to restart your machine in your case. Now, yeah, so now we're back. So we can do some tests and see if Nix has successfully installed. So we are going to use the command Nix -- version. And so this checks for the version of Nix that has been installed. So press enter and you should get a result. And so this is what I get here. So this is the version of Nix I'm using. So this is the latest version of Nix. And so make sure that you have this. Now, or anything higher than this is okay. Now, the next thing that you're going to do is to set up IOHK binary caches. That is step number 12. And for this, so the reason why we are setting up these binary caches to make the builds faster, so it's to make the Plutus application build faster. So here we're building Plutus environment or Haskell environment for Plutus smart contract development. So that's what you're building here. So if you want it to be fast, we need to set up the IOHK binary caches. So to do this, first we need to create a directory in the etc folder, and that directory we're going to call it Nix. So to make the directory, we are going to use uplifted privileges, a sudo, and then we're going to say sudo make directory, and we want to make this directory in the root folder. That's where we have the etc folder, and then in the etc folder we want to create the directory called Nix. Then press enter. It will ask for password because this is you have higher privileges here. Yeah, you're using uplifted privileges, so this is like using administrative rights. in Windows. So we have the password, then now our directory has been created. So we can change directories to the newly created directory by using cd command and change directory. So we want to change directory to root etc, then go into Nix folder that we've just created. So there it is. The next, now we want to create a file called nix.config. So that is step number 14, nix.conf. So be sure that you create the file with this exact name here, because if you fail to do that, if you fail, so do make sure that you create the file with this file name here. Excuse me. So do make sure that you create the file with the exact file name provided here. If you fail to do that, the build will be slower. Now we are going to do that. So we are going to create the file using Vim. So we're going to use sudo for administrative rights, so for application privileges. So then we use sudo Vim is the application which you're going to use to create this file. Then we want to create the file in this folder nix. Then so we say sudo vim nix.config, nix.conf, sorry, it's nix.conf. So you have to make sure that this name and what we have here are the same, exactly the same. That's very important. So I'm going to press enter, and this will launch the Vim editor. So here we are going to paste this code that you have here. So we're going to paste this. So copy and paste it there. Now after that, press escape, then :X. So escape :X, then press enter. So this will save and exit Vim, and thereby you'll have your file there, nix.config, created. Now after doing this, we need to again restart our computer just to make sure everything runs fine. So we are going to restart our VS Code. Then after doing that, now we are going to go to step number 17. And now in this step here, so we have restarted our WSL or our computer for Linux users. Then now the next step is to make a directory called Plutus. So we're going to use the command mkdir. Then we want to make the directory called Plutus. Then we need to navigate to Plutus. So change directory to Plutus. So inside the Plutus folder, we want to clone the Plutus application. So we have the command right here. So git clone. So this clones the Plutus apps application or the Plutus apps project from GitHub, and it's going to clone it into this directory Plutus. So press enter, and so now we are going to clone this project. So we give it about a minute and it will be done. So that is done. Now we have the Plutus application in our Plutus folder. Then we also need to clone another repository, which is a Plutus Pioneer Program repository, and we are going to use the command provided here. So git clone. We are going to copy that command and paste it right here. then press enter to run. And so this will clone the Plutus Pioneer program. So in this repository, or in this folder, is where we have the sample smart contracts which we are going to use for learning. So we're going to simulate this contract and see how they work. We are also going to look at how these contracts are created, step by step, and they'll assist us in the learning process. Then after this, now we need to change directory to the Plutus apps. So in this Plutus directory here, so when you check, so we want to list what is in that directory. So you can see here we have Plutus apps and Plutus Pioneer program. So we can even open this by going to file, then open folder, then we can open Plutus. Now then click OK. This will open up a window, and now you can see here we are in the Plutus folder, and inside the Plutus folder we have the two repositories which we have just cloned. So we have the Plutus apps, then we have the Plutus Pioneer program. Now we're going to again launch the terminal, so new terminal, and then we want to change directory to the Plutus apps. So currently we are in the Plutus directory, so we're going to change directory to Plutus -apps. Then in this directory, now we want to update the version of the Plutus apps that you're using. So for this, we use the command git checkout, and we provide a tag that represents the version that you want to use. So we're going to copy this command that is already here. So copy, then paste it here. So this is going to change the version of the Plutus apps to the version that we provided here using this tag. So press enter, and that is what is going to happen. So we have switched to this version here. Now the next thing to do is to build Nix, and this is the main process. And now to build Nix, we have to do it inside the Plutus apps directory. So we just type nix-shell. So we want to launch the Nix shell from here. So sorry, it's nix-shell. Then we are going to press enter. Now this process should take around 30 minutes. If it takes more than that, know that you have not followed you have not done the step number 12 to step number 15 correctly. So you need to go back to those 4 steps if it's taking more than 30 minutes to build Nix. So remember that. So that means that you have not set up the IOHK binary caches that make the build faster. So if it takes around 4 hours, know that you need to come back to steps number 12 to 15. So I'm going to fast forward this. And I'll see you in 30 minutes.
A few minutes later.
Yeah, and now Nix is already done building, and that was about 30 minutes. So welcome back. Yeah, so after that, now we need to launch the Plutus Playground. So this is one of the packages that comes with the Plutus application. So to launch the Plutus Playground, so remember the Plutus Playground is a client server application. So for us to be able to launch it, we need to launch it from the client side and from the server side. So we are going to start by launching it on the server side. And to do this, we're going to follow these instructions right here. So first, we need to navigate to the Plutus apps directory, which we are on at the moment. Then we launch Nix shell. So we have already launched the Nix shell. It's already there. Then now the next step is to navigate to the Plutus Playground server directory. So we're going to change directory to the Plutus Playground server. So we do that. Then in that directory, we are going to call the Plutus. We're going to launch the Plutus Playground server. So by just calling it, so Plutus Playground server. That way, and then press enter. So this will launch the Plutus Playground server. Then now we need to launch the Plutus Playground on the client side. So we're going to open up another Nix shell. So to do that, launch the Playground client. So we have first to navigate to the Plutus application. So change directory to Plutus apps. Then the Plutus apps, you're going to launch the Nix shell. So this time round, it will take very little time to launch, because now the first time takes about 30 minutes. The second time it will take about a minute or so. Yeah. Now we're going to wait for it to launch the Nix shell. Now going back to our Plutus Playground server, is still launching. So you just give it a minute for the Nix shell to launch. And this will only happen if you have created the IOHK binary cache. And there it is. So we have the Nix shell there. So from this Nix shell, now we need to navigate to the Plutus Playground client directory. So we're going to change directory to Plutus Playground client, then press enter. So we'll change directory, and then now we need to run node. So we say npm run start. So for the first time, it will take about 2 to 3 minutes for this to launch, because now we need to download some dependencies here and there. So it's going to take a bit of time, about 2 to 3 minutes, then it's done. But now going back to our Plutus server, it's already running. And then now we can go back to checking the Plutus client. So we're going to give it just a minute, then we're done. So as we wait for the Plutus client to set up and all that, we can launch a new terminal where we are going to download, or we're going to install one more tool. So we're going to install one more tool, which is called Cabal. So we're going to install Cabal now. So we just use this command right here, sudo apt install Cabal. So just paste it there and then press enter. Then we provide the password. Now Cabal is another tool that assists in building and packaging Haskell libraries and programs. So press yes for this to continue installing. So we can do this simultaneously as we wait for the client side to set up. So now we've done installing Cabal. So hope the client is the Plutus Playground client is done also. So now we can, it's just a matter of launching it. So yeah, so now to launch it, I have attached a link. So we use the local host address provided there, localhost port 8009. So we're going to use this. So you can just copy this, copy hyperlink, then I'm just going to paste it in my browser, then press enter. And so this will bring up this page with a warning that there's a potential risk, security risk ahead. So we just ignore this, go to advanced and accept risk and continue. So I assure you there's no security risk posed by this application. So there we have it. So now we have our local playground right there. And yeah, so now we are ready to compile different smart contracts and simulate them and see how they work. So that's the end of our tutorial. See you again another time.